He followed the white painted lines of American highways west and found a new American voice. I'm Matt Haskell. I'm a high school history teacher, and I'm taking you through Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire, line by line, lyric by lyric. And in this episode, we're going with Jack Kerouac. And when Billy Joel sings Kerouac, he's pointing to Jack Kerouac, who was a novelist who gave this a restless post-war generation a soundtrack in sentences. He was born in Lowell, Massachusetts, to French-Canadian parents, and Kerouac tried to play college football at Columbia, and then he drifted to the Merchant Marine, and he then fell in with a circle of people that would become the Beat generation, Allen Ginsberg, William S. Burroughs, and the fast-talking driver whose energy he would fictionalize later on, Neal Cassady. The book that made Kerouac's name is On the Road. He drafted it in 1951 on a long, taped-together scroll of paper, and he was chasing a style that he called spontaneous prose. It was breathless, it was jazz-inflected, and it was written to the rhythm of bebop and the back roads. And it was published in 1957. And the novel follows Sal Paradise and Dean Moriarty through bus depots and bars and night drives. It turned to coast wandering, and it turned it into kind of a spiritual quest. It wasn't the first road story, but it felt like now, it was cheap gas and new interstates and youth looking for a life wider, than more than just a paycheck or a picket fence. And Kerouac became a sudden celebrity, but albeit a complicated one. On TV, he sometimes, bristled with at the beatnik caricature. He insisting he was a writer and not just like a costume. He kept publishing. We get the Dharma Bums in 1958, and it had its mountain hikes and Buddhism, and we end up with Mexico City Blues in 1959 with an improvised verse. Then Big Sur in 1962, and that was tracing a breakdown after fame. But the spotlight still burned. He drank heavily. He often fought with his friends, and he watched the beat label slip from literature into marketing. Well, now the context matters here. In 1957, that was also the year that a court decided that the work Howl by Allen Ginsberg wasn't obscene, and that ruling widened the lane for more frank and experimental writing. Kerouac surfed the same wave of cultural loosening, even as he kind of like winced at the circus that existed around it. He died in 1969 at the age of 47 from an internal hemorrhage, leaving behind novels and notebooks and a legend of highways and it happens to you nights, right? And so why does Kerouac belong in the lyric? Well, it's because he turned mobility into meaning. The cadence of his paragraphs, they were loose and stacked and musical, and it matched the country's post-war beat. He had cars and jazz and diners and the deserts out west. And he made the road kind of a metaphor for teens and artists to live inside. And the legacy, though, it's mixed and it's real. His prose is still kind of jolting. His celebration of freedom helped, open doors for travel writing and counterculture and find yourself journeys. And critics will also point out that what his stories miss, or they maybe skim past, are women who are often sketched rather thinly and cultures borrowed without any real depth behind them. And reading him today means taking the charge, but then seeing the gaps as well. So when we tie it back to the song, with one last name, Billy Joel signals the beat generation and the feeling that a map and a friend and a night drive might just actually be philosophy. And the reason why it matters, Kerouac shows that how form meets era. A new sentence shape captured a new social shape. You have youth and cars and this cross-country motion and changed how American literature sounded. If you enjoyed this episode on Jack Kerouac, please leave a like, a follow, a comment, a share, and I'll keep rolling through Billy Joel's song because next up after Kerouac is Sputnik. Thanks for watching.